You remember last week it was the Sunday readings got bumped because it was the triumph of the cross. So that means those readings that we should have had last Sunday we don't get because they got bumped by triumph of the cross. And last Sunday should have been, if it was the 24th Sunday in ordinary time, we should have heard a nice little story about a lost sheep and a lost coin and a lost son. That's where we're at in Luke's gospel. You know, the lectionary goes through the gospel. Instead, that got bumped and we get this one this week. I think I'd like to go back and talk about lost sheep and lost coin and lost son rather than this scoundrel who Jesus almost seems to be praising. Like, what? Come on, how come we get this story? Jesus is telling all these stories. So I think, well, it's a good thing that this is my once-a-year presentation on the state of the parish, and I can just ignore all that. I could do that, but I actually think if we understand the story, maybe it has something to say about us as a parish. So thanks to a scripture scholar, Kenneth Bailey, I'm going to tell you Kenneth Bailey's theory about this story, and you can take it or leave it, but I think it's a pretty good understanding. So Kenneth Bailey is a scripture scholar who has spent a lot of time in the Middle East going to small towns and just living in small towns in the Middle East to understand Middle Eastern culture. And so he says, imagine this one. This story is about a little town where everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everything. And so this guy, whatever he was doing, got him fired. But most likely, he was kind of skimming money, taking a little bit for himself, and the boss figured that out and fired him for it. And then he comes up with this solution, because he realizes he's too old to dig ditches, and he's too embarrassed to beg. And so what does he do? So clearly, these people he's calling in don't know he's gotten fired yet. So there's a little bit of time there between getting fired and the people in the town finding out that he got fired. So he has people come in and adjust what they owe to his boss, to the owner. These are huge sums of money, huge amounts of what they owe. So Kenneth Bailey says, in today's numbers, that first guy would owe about $50,000 and the second guy about $40,000. So it's a good chunk of change that they owe his boss. Now here's the interesting thing. Did you catch it? When he says, here's the promissory note, sit down and write one out for less, to lower it. Why did they have to write it out? Why didn't this guy write it out? So he has them put it in their own hand, so that if he gets caught with what he's doing, they're all going with him. So all of you who changed your promissory notes are now guilty too. So we're all in this together. So that's one piece of it. So if the boss, when he finds out about it, gets mad, then they all go together. So then he might, they're all in trouble. He has some friends then. Okay, well, we're all in trouble together. I'll come over to your house tonight. But Bailey says that, so this is a small town. So this is a rich guy in town who suddenly, the guy who works for him is calling you in and says to you, hey, the rich guy wants to give you cut your debt. what is everybody in the town going to do? They're going to be happy. That rich guy just cut my debt down by a third. He just gave me $30,000. And so when they see him on the street, it's like, hey, man, this is great. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for giving me $30,000. And the rich guy is going to go, what? I gave you $30,000? Yeah, we're going to have a big party. And everybody in the town has heard about it because this guy has sat down with a whole bunch of people and cut all their debts. The whole town loves the rich guy because he cut their debt. And so now he's like, oh boy, it's a small town. He doesn't want to be hated by everybody in the little town. And so he's stuck reducing everybody's debt. Because his social pressure would be, hey, come on. And so that's why Jesus in the story says, the guy praised him. He's like, oh, you were smart. Now, everybody in town loves me, loves you for cutting the debt. Everybody's involved in this. So they celebrate. Jesus celebrates their ingenuity, that guy's ingenuity, that he used what he could well to protect himself. Jesus is not praising being immoral or unscrupulous. What he's praising is their creativity. And that in the world of business, in the world out there, they work real hard at creativity. And Jesus is a little bit sad in this story that you and I in the church don't work as hard. We're not as creative, not as willing to explore ways of doing things to get the gospel out to people. So he encourages people in the story then, at the end of it, to say, hey, use the things of this world wisely. They don't last. But use them wisely to build up the treasures of the kingdom. Because the world's treasures will fail. I don't know if he's looking at the stock exchange or why he's predicting that, but he's saying they will fail. And when they all fail, make sure that you've built up your friends for the kingdom. Just like that guy built up his friends to survive. How have you built up your friends for the kingdom, for the sake of the kingdom? Because, as he goes on to say, the world is going to tempt you out there. And you can't give in to that. You have to stay focused on the things of the kingdom in the midst of a world that is not kingdom focused. So, not a fun parable among Jesus' parables, but one that I think reflects on us as a community and what you can read about in the annual report. You either got one in the mail or you can pick them up on the way out. But as we do each year, we kind of celebrate who we are as a community while also reporting how I used your gifts. But I think it celebrates what's in that story Jesus tells. And that we are being creative in our use of the talents and abilities of parishioners. That we're a healthy community that stands as a place of refuge in a world that is not always kingdom focused. But we strive to be. So as I do every year, really, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for sharing your gifts and talents with each other and with the parish. Thank you for stepping up. Last year we were a little bit worried because inflation kept going up and we had the expenses were going up. But we finished the year in the black, thanks to your generosity. Over the next few weeks, when we get back from the pilgrimage, the Archdiocese is going to invite us to reflect over 3 Sundays on our commitment to God, both with prayer, our commitment to God in service, and our commitment to God in our generosity with our gifts. So I won't spend a lot of time on that tonight, because we'll have plenty of that in the near future. But thank you. Thank you for letting me be your shepherd, for walking with you as we stand apart in a world that challenges us as Christians. And that we know, as Jesus taught, that the only way to truly keep your faith in this world is to be part of a community. That's what he did from the beginning. Jesus didn't just write down a whole bunch of great ideas, here, live this way. He formed a community. He pulled disciples together because he knew that that's the only way to truly deepen our faith and live our faith is by doing it together.